Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we're going to start our first biology video lesson. This is chapter 7 of Form 4 biology, cell biology. By the end of the lesson, students must be able to recognize the cell theory. Number 2, students must be able to compare and contrast the structure of a prokaryotic cell and the structure of a eukaryotic cell. Comparing means telling the similarity between the two cells, and contrasting means telling the differences between the two cells in terms of structure. Cell theory. A theory is a resulting from many synthesis, observation, and conclusions. Observations means facts learned by observing, and conclusion means decision is made by the scientists after the observation. In 1665, Robert Hooke, who was an English scientist, tried to improve the microscope. He was going to produce a compound microscope by using a cork. A cork means plant cells. When he put the plant cells under the microscope, he saw a structure like this. And then his final decision was that he saw small rooms, and finally concluded that these are what cells. Cell is a small room, usually found in gels. The final conclusion of Robert Hooke was that the basic unit of a living thing is the cell. Second, Max Schleden, who was a botanist, and Theodore Swan, who was a zoologist, tried to improve the theory of the cell. They finally agreed that all living things are made up of either one or more cells. By their theory, organisms can be divided into unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. This is Rudolf Virchow. He was a German pathologist. He tried to improve the theories of the previous scientists, and finally he concluded that all cells come from pre-existing cells. All cells come from what? Pre-existing cells, which means cells divide and come from old cells. If you go back to our religion, Prophet Muhammad, peace of Allah be upon him, said, all humans are from Adam, and Adam was made by descent. That means from Adam today, humans are giving birth to humans. So you are a human being. When you get married, you will produce a new offspring, which is also a human being that has the same cells as yours. So finally, we can conclude that there are 3 theories of cell. Number 1, the cell is the basic unit of life. Number 2, all living things are made up of either one or more cells. Number 3, all cells divide and come from what? All cells, or in other words, cells come from pre-existing cells. So these are the theories of the cell. Let's look at the cell structure. Common cell traits. Common cell traits means the common characteristics of the cells. Number 1, the cell is the smallest unit of a living organism that's capable of performing life functions. If you go back to your body, you have systems, 12 organ systems, and each organ system is made up of a number of organs. Organs are made up of what? Made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells. So, for example, you have a nervous system. You have a nervous system. The smallest component of the nervous system is what? The nerve cells. The nerve cells. You have again reproductive system. The smallest components of reproductive system is the reproductive cells. You have blood circulatory system. The smallest components of circulatory system is going to be the blood cells. So the cell is the smallest unit that's capable of performing life functions. Number two, cells come in different size and different shape. Cells in our body may have different sizes and different shape. So the size of the cell and the shape of the cell directly relates to the function of the cell, to the function of the cell, to the function of the cell. Therefore, for example, nerve cells are larger than are larger than sperm cells. A nerve cell is larger than what? A reproductive cell, a sperm cell, not reproductive cell, a sperm cell. So the size of the shape and the shape of the cell is determined by the function of the cell. Number three, all cells have cell membrane. There is no cell without cell membrane. There is no cell without cell membrane. This is the outermost layer of the cells. We can also say it is just like a vents of a house. It includes the contents of the cell. No cell membrane means no cell. Number four, all cells have cytoplasm. This is a shell-like structure in the cell. It is the place where most of the chemical reactions take place, because inside the cytoplasm there are the organelles like mitochondria, which synthesizes energy for the cell, ribosomes, which produces proteins, and so on. All cells have a definite nucleus. A definite nucleus means a functional nucleus, except prokaryotic cells. So the nucleus is where the activities of the cell, the activities that takes place of the cell are controlled. It controls all the activities that takes place in the cell. So here you have four common traits of cells. Number one, they are the smallest unit that's capable of performing life functions. Number two, we need to appreciate that the size and shape of cells are different according to the function of the cell. Number three, all cells have a cell membrane. Number four, all cells have a cytoplasm. Number five, all cells have a nucleus. Okay, let's look at the types of cells: prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. In prokaryotic cells, these are the cells that lack membrane bone structures. There are very few organelles inside it, but these organelles that are found in the cytoplasm of the prokaryotic cells do not have a membranes that separates them from the other parts of the cytoplasm, and this is why we call it a prokaryotic cell. Pro means force and karyo means what? Nucleus. On the other hand, the eukaryotic cells are cells with membrane bone structures. Eukaryotic cells can be animals, can be fungi, can be protists, can be plants. One of the major difference between prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells is that the eukaryotic cells do have a nuclear membrane, as you can see here. So the nuclear membrane separates the nuclear material from the cellular material. So here you can add the genetic material. We found here the genetic material, which is the structure that controls what's going on inside the cell. and each and every other organelle in this cell has also a membrane which makes it very specific organelle, so that it does a very specific function. Finally, if we compare the prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells by using a Venn diagram, here is the similarities, differences. So the prokaryotic cells are very small, tiny, and eukaryotic cells are very large. In terms of size, prokaryotic cells are smaller than eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells do not have a nucleus, while eukaryotic cells contain a nucleus, well-structured nucleus. Prokaryotic cells have very few organelles, but eukaryotic cells do have many organelles. Prokaryotic cells are unicellular. Eukaryotic cells can be either unicellular or multicellular. Unicellular, like protista, and multicellular, like animals or plants. Example of prokaryotic cells include bacteria. Examples of eukaryotic cells include plants and animals. And this is the similarity. They both have DNA, but the difference is the position of the DNA. In eukaryotic cells, the DNA is found in the nucleus. The DNA is found inside the nucleus. But in prokaryotic cells, the DNA is found in the cytoplasm, especially a place called nuclear region. Both cells have cell membrane. As we discussed earlier, we said this is the fence. It encloses the contents of the cell. The cytoplasm is the place where chemical reactions take place, so both have cytoplasm. And flagella or cilia. There are some eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells that do have flagella and cilia. What's the difference between flagella and cilia? Flagella is a tail like this. For example, the sperm cell. The sperm cell has a long tail which use propulsion for movement, and also there are some organisms like paramecium. It has hair-like projections which it uses movement. So simply the difference between a flagella and cilia is the number. Flagella is a single, and cilia are more. Finally, they both have ribosomes, which is the place where the